Well, that was the ancestors saying thank you. Yeah, every single thing likes that. The earth likes that, the trees like that, the ancestors like that. That's, and we all liked it. Woohoo! So, for those of you that are here for the very first time, what a great decision on your part. And we have these two goddesses right here that are wanting to give you our newcomer packet. So if you're here for the first time, or if you're sort of new and you don't have it, just put your hand up and they will bring a newcomer packet to you. And then we'd love for you to stay afterwards. We have some snacks and I'd love to meet you personally. So welcome to the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, where our vision is awakening personal transformation, and our mission right up here is teaching tools for positive change. That's what we do with every single thing that we put our hand to, is to have the imagination for personal transformation one at a time, and we show you how to do that with tools that have worked for us. So we have a worldwide vision for this year, and that is a world that works for everyone. And just letting that sit in your heart for a moment, so that there's no more hunger and no more violence and no more abuse of any kind of any living thing. That's what we hold the vision for. And our April theme is kinship with all life. And so what a wonderful thing to know that this is an international theme of Centers for Spiritual Living, and most of our centers are talking about kinship with all of life in April. So what this means, of course, when Rick came up and he said there are many paths to God, but we teach that there is only one God, the next piece of that learning and that wisdom tradition that we hold is that the life of God is in and through everything. So it's the same life that is in the tree and the bunny and the water and the mountains that is in us and in the earth herself. So with that in mind, I want to draw your attention to this amazing altar that Mary Bickford did today. This is a depiction of Eden. And it has the Eden after the fifth day, before the people. And all of the animals have been created, and the waters and the trees and the grasses, and there's harmony. And so I really want to thank Mary. This is her second altar, and I said, I'd like you to do Eden. And so we talked about that for a while, and it worked out perfectly. So I want to show you that on this handout, and there's some of these at the back table there, this is a world that works for everyone, and right here is where kinship with all of life is sacred. So that's what we're talking about all this month. And interestingly enough, the topic for today, with that in mind, that the kinship with all life is the topic for the month, the handout, or it's on this side of the handout, the title for today is, what is healing? So if we look at healing for all life on earth, that's what taking the kinship with all life and the topic of healing says to me. And then if we look back at last month, where our theme was understanding the power of the mind and bringing that forward, today I'm going to talk about the power of the mind in healing all life on earth. So the quote on this side of the handout in what we believe is, we believe in the healing of the sick through the power of the mind. Now, we can substitute that word sick for a number of things. We believe in the healing of limitation through the power of the mind. We believe in the healing of violence through the power of the mind. We believe in the healing of sadness through the power of the mind. We believe in the healing of discord of every kind through the power of the mind. And anything else that you can bring up from your own experience that feels unhealed. We believe that the healed state is the natural state, and so we can use our mind to get back to that healed state. So in order to pursue this path of healing, I want to begin at the very beginning, when there was nothing to heal. And I mean really at the very beginning with Eden. So let's just have a picture here of Eden. So there's, it just looks like exactly like the altar, right? So, you know, the animals and the water and the beautiful trees and so forth. So the story of the first book of the Bible in the Old Testament of Genesis, it feeds our mind, it feeds our imagination. It feeds, I don't want us to think about it being anything particularly specifically historic, but however you believe that it was in the beginning and it is now, there's this evolutionary process or this developmental process or something happened from whether you believe in the Big Bang or whether you believe in the story that says, let there be light. You know, I kind of think both of them fit together quite well. So in the third verse, it says, let there be light, and there was light. That was the first thing that was created. And then it goes on to say that, and God saw the light, that it was good. So there was something that happened that started everything, and it was good. It was, the starting of the universe was really good. And so when we look up here, we can say that God's original creation was good. And so let me just remind you what happened then. God said, let the waters under heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And then God saw that it was good. And then, and the earth brought forth grass after God said to, and herbs, and everything after its kind. The tree yielding the fruit, whose seed was in itself after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And then there were lights in the sky, the greater to rule the day and the lesser to rule the night. And God saw that it was good. And then God created the creatures, and the great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, and the winged fowl after its kind. And God saw that it was good. So all of this creation was great. It was perfect. There was no need of any healing. Can we all kind of agree that there was no need for healing when this balance happened, that the land brings forth the grass and the fruit, and the animals bring forth young, and everything after its kind, and the day follows the night, and all processes were good. There was no need of healing. Everything functioned in this beautiful cycle of life. And so the other thing about God's creation is that we say that it was whole, complete, and perfect. When we say that, that's kind of, we use those three words together a lot in the teaching. Whole, complete, and perfect. That means it lacked nothing. Nothing needed to be changed. Nothing needed to be fixed. It was just great, just like that. Then we have the sixth day. The sixth day of creation, God brought forth humans. So here we have the people. The people came into the Garden of Eden. And so in the Bible, it says, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. I don't think that means that we look like God, that God has 2 legs and 2 arms. That is not what that means to me. After the likeness of the Creator means that we can create as well. So what this means is that humans enter with God's powers God's powers to create. The likeness means that we operate with God's mind, and God calls it forth, and what's called forth manifests, and that's how we are. What we call forth is what is manifest. I love in Marilyn's prayer when she said the word choosing. We choose, and every choice we make replicates the choice. It's just like God said, let there be light, and we can say, let there be abundance in my life, or I'm so lonely. And that brings forth that. So what happens is that, what do we do with that? What do we do with those choices? God told us in the metaphorical story, God laid out what we can do. You know, we can eat of anything, we can play with anything, but, well, no, we can't eat anything. We can't eat of that tree over there. And then we chose to do that. And it was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So I don't see that. I basically do not see the story as disobedience. What I see is that the person who wrote down the words of Genesis, the first book in the Bible, lived in a time that we all share, where there is strife. There is joy and there is strife. And this writer had to come to terms with, why? Why is there seeming bad stuff that happens in this world that is supposed to be in harmony? And so they explained it, that somehow the notion of good and evil, God, and so we chose to see the world divided into good and evil. That's how everything proceeded from the time human beings could think. That it seems that this world that was created in harmony, somehow we now see it as bad stuff and good stuff. And this is the way life has proceeded henceforth, with that split in the unity, where we can see an outside and an inside, an up and a down, a good and a bad. There is a split and a polarization. And what I think is so fascinating is when you just look at this country that is going through the election process now, whenever we have one thing that affects the whole nation in as big a way as, you know, a big news event or the election, we settle into the polarization that represents what the writer of this story called good and evil. It's just that we see things polarized. So I also see that when the writer said that God essentially kicked us out of the garden, that began the evolutionary process. I mean, think of it. If we had stayed in the garden, if we had stared at that tree for eternity that God told us not to eat of, and we ate everything else, nothing would have happened. Adam and Eve would still, and their descendants, would still be staring at that tree and eating the fruit that fell into their mouth, and nothing else would have happened. We had to leave the security of that place where everything was given to us. It's kind of like birth. We had to leave the place where everything was provided so that we could learn skills, so we could develop, so we could adapt, so we could use the other parts of life on earth and make things. So with lots and lots and lots of work, and work in consciousness, not just work in the world, and work to look at that dichotomy of the polarization and say, does this really make sense? Is this the most positive way I can look at the world? When we keep doing the work that we are doing here, that leads us to responsibility instead of victimhood, and then we choose to see the world as co-creators. So we have a choice every single moment to bring forth life-giving qualities and circumstances that cause no harm to anyone. We have that choice every single moment. And when we forget, we eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and something, bad happens. My favorite Facebook thing this week, you know how I love to bring you Facebook things. My favorite Facebook meme is, there's a picture of all of the candidates running for president, and it says, no matter who wins, they will not fix your life. Better plan on doing that yourself. There you go. As metaphysicians, as people who know that we are co-creators of our life and responsible for our own life, we cannot blame or rely on anyone else to make our life joyful and useful. So with more work on our part, as I am doing and as I'm encouraging everybody to do, and the practitioners encourage us all, they do their own work. They, by the way, had a marvelous retreat this weekend. So if the energy here feels especially elevated, it's because of a wonderful, wonderful practitioner retreat. With more work, we see our choice as an exercise in freedom and responsibility. We have the freedom to interpret life as limiting, dangerous, sad, and hopeless. And then you know what happens? Just like the animals that bring forth young after their kind, when we impregnate our life with limiting, dangerous, sad, and hopeless ideas, that's what we bring forth. It feels like something is wrong, but actually, in the biggest structure, nothing is wrong. We are bringing forth a balanced and predictable life based on the consciousness we put into it. So if we think limiting thoughts and how sad it is and how bad it is and how limited I am and blah, 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 that's exactly how we are going to experience our life, which doesn't feel whole, complete, and perfect, right? So this is where healing comes in. Because it all started out with nobody needing healing. Nothing needing healing in Eden. It's a metaphor, but still, we can imagine a beautiful environment and a beautiful life where nothing needs healing. And you know what? If we stay with that vision, that's what happens. We are seduced into believing in the truth of good and evil. And so it is done unto us as we believe. So, healing. Isn't that sweet? There's no place like home. There's no place like home. No place like Eden. So here we go. Healing is using the power of the mind to reveal perfection. And this is the kinship with all of life. We use our creative mind, made in the likeness of God, to see the wholeness and the perfection that is already inherent within creation. And then we experience it in our lives. That is how we participate in healing, and that is the connection with kinship with all of life. So we're going to go through a few little points here. The first is that means that we are restoring the natural divine order of harmony, peace, beauty, right action, and thought, through thought. It's just like when Dorothy says there's no place like home. She is restored to Kansas. Now that's an interesting state of perfection, but nonetheless, she liked it. And so we restore the natural state of our own perfection when we seek those qualities of life that bring us joy. And we have to do that first rather than say, well, let's see what happens. It's like if you have a wood-burning stove and you've got a casserole to put in. You put it in the wood-burning stove and you say, well, let's see what happens. If you don't put the wood in and light the fire, nothing is going to happen. You have to do that first before you cook the casserole. You have to put generous, beautiful, glorious, happy, inspirational ideas into your mind and heart before they show up in your life. That's the way it is. Next, healing and using the power of the mind to reveal perfection is seeing oneness. This is great practice in the election cycle. I am doing practices every time I look on Facebook or hear the news or whatever, and I listen to the news because that's my prayer list. And I say to myself, just like me, this person wants positive influence over his life. Just like me, this person wants love and connection in his life. And so I look beyond the language that divides and try to see the elements that connect. That's my practice in this election cycle. And, you know, I'm working it every single day. Using the mind to reveal perfection is feeling all is well. And so that means you look for the good and praise it in your life. This is not mindless Pollyanna, you know, la, 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 I'm not going to look at the bad stuff. It's actually seeing what is hurtful and looking through that to something that is beautiful. Looking through that to something that is good, that feels good, that is life-giving, that is beautiful and connecting, and doing that over and over and over again. Walking outside, this is the season to do it. You feel not so happy? Walk outside, take a breath, and look at the beautiful growing things. This place is Eden when you look at the natural world here. So you look for the good and praise it. You say, you know, I am one with the iris. I am one with the poppy. And, you know, it works. Using the power of the mind to reveal perfection is knowing the life-giving qualities are present. No matter what you are going through, there are life-giving qualities that are present. So, you know, I thought about what if somebody is really dealing with like a sickness or a dis-ease, and it's really hard to see how healing can happen if you've been given a diagnosis that's not so good. It's hard to even speak about it without using words that fit into that dichotomy. But this is a book that I've had for years and years. It's called Existential Psychotherapy. I haven't gotten too far into it, as you can see. But because I came to this one thing, and it shows how healing can happen no matter what the circumstances are. And so this is a book about, you know, for therapists. And so this is a little section about the confrontation with death. And it says, over my many years of work with terminally ill cancer patients, I have been struck by how many of them use their crisis and their danger as an opportunity for change. They report startling shifts, inner changes that can be characterized in no other way than personal growth. And here are some of them. A rearrangement of life's priorities, meaning a trivializing of the trivial. A sense of liberation, being able to choose not to do those things that they really don't wish to do. An enhanced sense of living in the immediate present rather than postponing life until retirement or some other point in the future. A vivid appreciation of the elemental facts of life, the changing seasons, the wind, falling leaves, the last Christmas, and so forth. Deeper communication with loved ones than before the crisis. And finally, fewer interpersonal fears, less concern about rejection, greater willingness to take risks than before the crisis. You look at those qualities of life of someone who is terminally ill, and what you see is a healed life. You see a happy life. You see a person that is content. And that is what we wish for everyone. who has the life path that sees the doorway of death a long time before they get there. That's the work that can be done. And you know, we all go through that doorway of death, every single one of us. And so that reminds us that keeping current with our work day by day by day by day ensures that we will be in that healed state rather than right there with our last few breaths saying, I wish I'd forgiven him. I wish I'd, not spent so much time at the office. Whatever it is, whatever is your desire, that is so important, knowing that life-giving qualities are present in every single instance all the time. And then finally, following up with conscious action. We think love, and then we follow it with action. We think peace, and then we follow it with action. There's a great quote from another wisdom tradition that I'm a part of, and that is, realization without actualization is just entertainment. You know? It's not halfway there. Realization without actualization is nowhere until you follow it with action. So, to conclude my talk today, in the Bible, it actually says that we are supposed to, God blessed them, Adam and Eve, and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So it seems to me that we've multiplied. It seems to me that we have subdued or tamed the earth. It seems to me that that word dominion, we haven't cared for so much as we've dominated over the earth. And what we still need to do is replenish. And this is not just a good idea. This is not one of those commandments from God that, if I were a Bible thumper, I would be waving this at you. It's our mission on earth. It is our mission to replenish it. It is our mission to contemplate what the garden was like and to bring it forth once again. And so, as we come back to the spiritual principles that I've discussed today, the first is God's creation is perfect, whole, and complete. And then healing is restoring the inherent divine perfection. That's what we've talked about. This is the truth from our spiritual tradition. And so for you to experience that, which is, once again, if you just listen to me and you, that was such a nice talk, that's not actualizing it. That's, realizing it, maybe, but not actualizing it. To actualize it, this is what you do. The spiritual practice is to choose to see and reveal wholeness. That means you take on the healing of your own life. You take on the healing of the lives of those around you, if they choose to as well, restoring the natural wholeness. And you choose to reveal the wholeness in the world. So, ready for the inner work? As I conclude this message, which I enjoyed receiving from God, I enjoyed receiving this. I am left with the question for myself and for all of us. What can I replenish? What can I restore with my mind and with my hands? Can I honor all of those that I work with more? Can I see their perfection? Can I call it forth and love them? Can I replenish a sense of peace in my own family where there might be strife? Can I bring the healing balm of peace and simply give it into the energetic space that is my family? Can I replenish the feeling of vitality and health in my own body by taking care of it and choosing to put the right things in it and exercise it and brush it and wash it well and replenish it? For my natural state is health and vitality. Can I replenish an attitude of such abundance in my own life that all I see is multiplicity and the many, the never-ending, the eternal quality of so much in my life? Can I replenish that essence of Eden? Harmony, well-being for all, and kinship with all of life, all of God's creation. May it be that I am a force for good in the world, making it a better place because I have walked there. This is my fervent prayer, and anyone who agrees, simply saying in their heart of hearts, "Oh, me too, use me for replenishing." And so it is. Amen.